So chances are you grew up on games like Dragon Ball Advance Adventure, Naruto Ninja Council, that One Piece Game Boy Advance game, the Legacy of Goku games, all these great 2D action games that came out on handheld platforms like the Game Boy Advance and the DS. Stuff like Jump Superstar and Ultimate Star. Really cool games, and I'm afraid to tell you that you're probably never getting these games ever again. And the reason for that is because the landscape of anime gaming has changed so much since the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS era. In part because game development now has become so costly, and also partly because of the Nintendo Switch and iPhone games. Because back in 2003, 2004, there was the idea that you made certain games for the Game Boy Advance, and then you made certain games for the consoles. You couldn't put Dragon Ball Z Budokai or Naruto Clash of the Ninja on a Game Boy Advance or the DS. And so they had to make scaled down experiences to fit that. But now we've reached a point where a lot of game systems, including the Nintendo Switch, the Steam Deck, have the power to run games that, while they don't hit the same parity as the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4, they can mimic sort of that experience in a much closer fashion than say the Game Boy Advance compared to the PlayStation 2 or GameCube. And what that means is that there's an expectation that when a game is released for the Nintendo Switch, that it has not AAA experience, but is a little bit more fleshed out and is a little bit more 3D, has more content than games that existed back on the Nintendo DS era and the Game Boy Advance era. And all that to say is that there's really not a place for short, smaller experiences, because while the Nintendo Switch is a handheld console, it's meant to essentially double as a console. I feel like it's a console first, because if somebody plugs in their Dragon Ball Z game into Nintendo Switch to put on their TV, they expect a console experience out of it, not a handheld experience out of it. And then you might ask, hey, what about the iPhone or mobile systems? And to that point, because iPhone is such a different type of gaming ecosystem, you're not getting the same experiences that more focused games like the Legacy of Goku gave you back in the early 2000s, because these games are meant to oftentimes be like free to play games that reward constantly playing every day for like short experiences, stuff like Dragon Ball Z Legends or Dokkan Battle, which those are fine games. Those games have a mighty community around them, but it's just not the same experience that existed back in the day. And so all this to say, I really do hope we see a resurgence of smaller games that you come from these major properties like Dragon Ball, like Naruto, or some of the newer stuff that's coming out, like Jujutsu no Kaisen. But currently it's either you're getting these weird mobile games which have a terrible track record of preservation. 9 times out of 10 these games go away as soon as like 5-10 years, and you can never play them again, whereas there's such a good preservation effort with these console games that that's all I had to say. This is just like a little bit of a side. I've put this under my Golden Portable Plus line of videos, just because there's random thoughts that come into my head on random topics I want to talk about. And let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think the game market is set to get more games like existed in our past, or do you even care that we don't get those types of games anymore? Let me know. All right, bye.